but we have to be 100% honest with people. And for me, the easiest way to do that is to just treat them like they're my kid. Give them that same unconditional love that I would give my kid.
Some of the differences between a boss and a leader is a boss would never do that.
Yeah.
You know, a boss would just point the finger or crack the whip and say, go do better, versus how can we together move forward?
If I could do that with unconditional love and I could still show them that I care about them through that process, I'm not trying to cast them out of the building. I'm trying to come up with a solution. They could be in a safe place and they can actually receive the message that I'm giving them.
Leadership is the human job of taking care of people. You can only be to others what you are first to yourself.
I could not agree more.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of anybody else?
Mm-hmm. It's like I think we mentioned it already, the airplane theory, where you have to put on your own mask first in order to save the other people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Leadership is, if you're not leading from the front, you're not truly leading. You're not taking accountability and being vulnerable and, working hard, not just telling people what to do, but, showing that you're in the ditch with them. It's a big deal.
Yeah. How do you get accountability?
I think you have to just constantly look at yourself and say, am I holding myself to the same standard I'm holding everybody else? It's easy to tell everybody what to do, but are you going to live up to the same standard? It's easy to tell everybody, I need everybody to show up here at 6:00. But if you don't show up here at 6:00, it's not going to be very long before everybody stops showing up at 6:00. And then how can you, hold them accountable if you're not there at 6:00 every day yourself? So you have to hold yourself accountable. If you're going to set a standard as a leader, you have to be the one to set that standard. And I think that's the accountability portion of it. And it's very difficult for the leader to do because, who's holding you accountable but you? Business owners, they're the ones that are having to set a standard that nobody else is holding over their head. Like, hey, you need to show up on time or I'm going to fire you or I'm going to write you up or, it's you that's setting that standard. So the leader is somebody that's capable of doing, setting that standard when nobody else is looking. Like, it's a big deal.
So if you want accountability, you have to model it.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be the person that's setting that standard. You want everybody to, take care of the customers by, always answering their phone calls. Well, you got to be that one that answers the phone all the time. You can't expect everybody else to do all the little things that makes a company great if you're not willing to do all the little things yourself.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
You'd have to have the self-discipline, self-leadership before team leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. That's setting the standard out in front of everyone else, setting that standard that you're going to do what it takes to be successful. People will follow that.
Mm-hmm.
If you're working your butt off, you get somebody in that's motivated and whatever, they're going to watch what you're doing and they're going to mimic that.
Mm-hmm.
So setting that standard is a big deal. It's a big deal in running a company. If I didn't show up every morning at 5:45, Jason Jarrett would never have put the trust in me that he did. He didn't demand that I showed up at that time. That's what I did. I make sure that I'm here before everybody else. Now there's people that get here before me, but consistently every day I'm here before everybody else is supposed to be here. And that sets a standard and I don't let that go. And I know you do the same thing. But nobody could ever tell you anything about how hard you work when you set that precedence. When somebody's showing up late every day, you have the authority to call them out for it, but you also are in good standing. So you're not just preaching from the choir you're actually
Demonstrating.
yeah, you're walking the walk. And so when you tell somebody they need to show up on time, they have to respect you because you show up every day at or before 6 o'clock. And you know, that's a pretty powerful place to lead from.
You mentioned, summarizing it, before you can lead anybody else, you've got to prove to yourself that your habits match your values. Because you mentioned values.
Yeah.
What are your values? And what gives you that drive to
You know,
have those
mine
habits?
mine have gradually changed, but to me, unconditional love for myself. It starts there. If I can love, most people don't know what unconditional love is until they have a kid. When you have this little baby boy or girl, and their entire well-being in life is dependent on you and their mother, right? So and all you want to do is take care of them. They can't do any wrong. Yes, you want them to sleep and give you a little more rest at night or whatever, but you're still going to get up when they're crying in the middle of the night. Like, there's nothing they could do to make you stop loving them. You can get frustrated at times because, being a parent is difficult, but that unconditional love is, in my opinion, how we're supposed to live. And I think this translates into everything that we do, especially when you're going to be the leader of men and women in a work environment. But if I don't have a certain level of self-respect and self-love, self-discipline for myself, then it's not going to carry over into other people. If I need to have that unconditional love for myself so I can give you unconditional love, and I could tell you all the things that I need to out of love and compassion. Like, one of the hardest things for a leader to do is to have difficult conversations. But if it was their kid and their kid was screwing up, they would have that conversation over and over and over. It would
They
be,
think it.
you wouldn't even think
They
it.
would just
Why?
go to it.
Because you love them so
Fair.
much. You
Mhm.
care. But if you could truly lead from a place of compassion and unconditional love for yourself and everyone around you, everybody that you work with, whether you want to hang out with them and have a beer at night or not, regardless, give them the same compassion and love that you would give your kid, that you would give yourself. And then when something's not going right, you're running into a difficult time, we're losing customers. We got to have a difficult conversation because a specific individual is not living up to the expectation of the company, not meeting the customer's demands, and now it takes a difficult conversation. Well, if I don't have compassion for them, two things can happen. I can't put them in a safe space for us to have a real conversation and them take ownership of it. And two, I'm not going to be completely honest with them. If a lot of folks have to get mad, angry, and frustrated to have a real conversation with somebody, and now you're coming from a place of judgment and ridicule, like, you're screwing this up. Get your ass to work. Do it the right way. Blah 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 blah. But if you come from a place of, look, dude, I care about you. I don't know what's going on, but this is the problem. This is what you're doing. You're doing A, B, and C, and we need to fix those things because those things are a detriment to the company. Well, if I could do that with unconditional love and I could still show them that I care about them through that process, I'm not trying to cast them out of the building. I'm trying to come up with a solution. They could be in a safe place and they can actually receive the message that I'm giving them. But if they're in a place to throw up their dukes and fight back and push back and say, "Oh no, that's not what happened. It's Johnny did this or Lisa did that or whoever," then now all of a sudden it's not a productive conversation and the company can't grow out of that situation. And if, as a leader, we need to get the best out of people, and the best is always going to come when they're in a safe place. It's proven now that when we get ourselves in an elevated emotional state, that our intelligence drops, that we start to kind of fail doing simple tasks that we could do under a calm, loving environment. We could be far more intelligent. We could take advantage of our full level of intelligence. But the second we get ourselves into an elevated emotional state, our intelligence drops. So the goal is to put everybody in a place where they have the same motivation to get to the same end goal and support them, put them in a safe environment to where they could receive constructive criticism without feeling like they are, an outcast, being outcasted. Like you want them to feel safe in that environment. Now, if you've had the same conversation with them 2 or 3 times, that might not be the place they need to work. And you could fire somebody with compassion and love. There's no reason to get excited. Like, hey, look, man, I care about you. I think you're an amazing person, but I don't think this is a good fit. And so we need to move on, and we need to find somebody that could take care of us and do this job a little bit better than you can. But we don't need to get excited and worked out. And when you approach situations like that, it allows the person that you're talking to receive the information at their full capacity. And I think it's a very important part of leadership because our goal is to grow a business. And the only way we could do that is with the people that we work with every day. And if we don't have some type of compassion for each other and respect, it just doesn't work. And I think we need to lead from that place. And then that unbridled, that unfiltered honesty. We don't need to be cruel with that honesty, but like we need to be 100% honest, just like we would be with our kid if our kid was working with us. Give them all the insight. Like, hey, dude, you're messing up here. But, I think a lot of people, and it took me a long time personally to learn this, but we have to be 100% honest with people. And for me, the easiest way to do that is to just treat them like they're my kid. Give them that same unconditional love that I would give my kid. And now all of a sudden I'm building real relationships with people because I genuinely care and they could genuinely feel that. And when they feel that love, they feel safe. And now all of a sudden we can have a real conversation about the mistakes they've been making. You might hear, they might throw different things at you that you didn't expect. Their home life is this. They're making some, and a lot of times those conversations, you get a real answer, and when you leave that conversation that there's real change coming, and you were heard.
I wish I had my my notepad and pen with me because there was a lot of things you hit on that golden nuggets. Really, I mean, you've been in this industry, and you've seen leaders triumph, and you've seen leaders fall.
Yeah.
And you've got just this wealth of knowledge that anybody would benefit from. I wanted to pick up on several things that you said, if I can remember correctly, but how does someone get that drive to wake up and to want to have that compassion with every day, with everybody?
Self-love is hard. I've had to work on myself personally. That's why this is the spiritual operating procedure, not the standard operating, because you have to truly do real work.
Yeah.
You have to go inward, take your focus and turn it inward to solve these problems. You have to go in and heal yourself from your past trauma, those things that trigger you. It's hard to have unconditional love for yourself and others when you can be triggered really easy. When somebody could say something smart to you and all of a sudden you go off the rails and now you're elevated and you're just fighting back and you're just in a fight. Like that's easy to do. We can all get in a fight and just lose it and go. That's easy. Staying calm, staying in a perfect state of peace, even if you feel something boiling up inside, get that separation from that. Don't engage with it. Don't allow that to take control over you. That's how we can do that. But it takes a lot of work. Like I've been working on myself for the last 7 years, very diligently trying to heal from past pain and trauma and just freeing myself from the things that would trigger me. Any uncomfortable feelings inside, I know how to track it down to its source and heal from it so it doesn't bother me anymore. There's days I have a harder time doing that, especially the further along I go in this process. it's not always easy to track down to the source of what's making me feel uncomfortable, but it has gotten a lot easier to disassociate from it, acknowledge that I'm not feeling great, but it doesn't trigger me. It doesn't make my emotions on the outside become affected. It doesn't change how I go through my days. To answer your question, unconditional love, it really starts with, learning how to heal, having the courage to go inward and face all those triggers, because those triggers is what makes us, a poor leader, in my opinion.
There's a study that 60 to 70% of Americans did not feel protected at their workplace.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah. So everybody's pointing at everybody else. They're playing the blame game.
Yeah.
And, I didn't do it. He did it.
Uh-huh.
And that's another sign of a poor leader.
Yeah.
Those environments where there's 60% of the people aren't feeling safe, that's a direct relation to the leaders there. They're not making them feel safe. And the way that you kind of do that, if you're a leader and you're sitting in a leadership spot, I would highly recommend you learn the basic premise of extreme ownership. Because the first time I did it, I actually read a book on this, Jocko's book on extreme ownership. I go to a meeting. I'm not a fire suppression guy, but I'm the boss of all these guys. And we flooded a building. And I'm trying to figure out how we never flood a building again, because, you flood too many of them, you get your insurance canceled, and now all of a sudden you don't have a business. So this is a very important thing. And so I called everybody in, every leader that we had, every division, anybody that's responsible for anything. We got 15 people sitting around a table, and the buck's stopping with me in that scenario. There's Jason Jarrett, but he's not in that meeting. And I sit in there, and the first thing I did, I knew I needed to take ownership of that flood, but it couldn't be half-assed. I needed to take real ownership of that flood. And so I thought about it overnight, go into that next meeting, and I sat down with everybody and I said, all right, guys, I want you guys to know that I'm taking 100% responsibility for this flood. And they're looking at me like, well, how the hell is this your fault? I said, well, let me tell you how it's my fault. I said, who's ever had training on a sure-off? Who's ever had training on this? And everybody looks around the room like nobody. And said, how many guys in the field have a sure-off in their truck? None. They all said none. Like, guys, we've not trained anybody on simple procedures that have to do with a flood. When you pull a live head, how to stop that water quickly before it floods an entire building. I said, so that's not your all's fault. That's mine. Immediately after I said that, the room started taking ownership of it. Me as the leader, when I took ownership, it took the pressure off of everybody else in that room. And now all of a sudden, got Nathan across from me going, no, that wasn't your fault. I could have done this. I sent a contract guy to attend a job. I shouldn't have done that. And then we got another guy piping up and like, nope, this was my fault. I could have done. So now all of a sudden, we got 5, 6, 7, 8 guys piping out saying that this was their fault, and they're taking ownership of it because they could have done A, B, C, D, E, and F. And now all of a sudden, we have solutions. Solutions are just falling out on the table instead of people pointing fingers at each other and people worrying about their jobs. We had an amazing meeting. We started monthly training. We had all kinds of action items that came out of that meeting. We immediately purchased share-offs for every vehicle. We did training on it. Not only that, we went to the next month and the next month and the next month and moved on to the next things. And it just pushed our company forward as a team, as a group, because everybody was putting in ideas and everybody felt like uplifted, like they were a part of a solution. And so, but it all started with them feeling safe enough, back to your original point, to offer up a solution. They didn't have to worry about themselves saying, oh, this is my fault. I'm going to get fired. No, the leader in the room just said it was his fault, and it made everybody feel safe.
Yep.
And now once everybody feels safe, they're using all of their brain power to come up with solutions.
Yep.
it was for me, that was a game
That was
changer.
huge. I remember that. It started a movement
Yeah.
to where all of the not just in that meeting, but anything that happened, you would start seeing the owners say, "I take" well, the leaders start saying, "I take 1,000% ownership no matter what," and then would go tell you, because we're like,
Yes.
"Just wanted you to know that I heard you."
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but not shortly after that is when you created the leadership program.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know, 'cause it was that book and then another one and another one, and I took, I don't know, 15 books, and I kinda took all those lessons that we've learned to kinda put them into a leadership program, but the biggest thing out of all of it is that
Mhm.
creating that safe environment is just it's vital. If you want employees to be able to use their maximum amount of intelligence that they carry with them, they have to feel safe.
Mhm.
When you're nervous and your anxiety and is running wild, science has proven we become dumber.
Yep.
I mean, we literally become dumber in high stress situations where we're filled with anxiety and worry about our job. If those guys were all worried about their job, they would have been pointing to everybody else about everybody else's decisions they made instead of just sitting around the room and just coming up with solutions. They're all using the maximum amount of brain power to come up with solutions
Mhm.
instead of trying to cover their own ass.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that was an amazing moment for me, and it changed things on how I approached every situation, every scenario. Doesn't matter what problem it is, I find a way, whether it's 1% or 100% my fault. I try to make it 100% my fault. I take 100% ownership, and then I go address the issue with it being my fault. And you just watch everybody, and then it's contagious, like you said. Then all of a sudden, other people feel safe enough to say, "Yep, this is my fault," and then the people below them are doing the same thing. It just keeps trickling down. It's pretty powerful.
It was powerful, and then that kind of led into, how you handled crucial conversations.
Yeah, yeah, and because it takes the same premise, right? You got to make people feel safe,
Yep.
and if you don't feel safe, you're going to get into a butting of heads conversations instead of a compassionate conversation like we would with our son, like I was just talking about a minute ago. Like if I'm talking to my son, he already knows I love him. And I could soften my tone like, "Boy, I love you to death, dude, but, like, you're doing this right here and you're screwing up, and I need you to know that you're screwing up. So if I can do that with my son, why couldn't I do that with you?
Mhm.
Or 50 other people here that are managers, like, I can't treat them with the same compassion and get the same results? Like, because my son, my oldest son, Michael, he took all those, conversations and he grew from every single one of them. Well, why doesn't everybody else deserve the same level of a conversation and honesty and love that he gets?
Mhm.
It's unconditional love. I should be able to love everyone equally. Like, why do I gotta love them, my son, more than them? That's not fair to anybody that I work with. And
Mhm.
so taking that unconditional love approach, and bringing it to all aspects of it, and then incorporating the extreme ownership of it, which is another way to keep people safe. It all starts to just tie into each other really well, because now those crucial conversations, those conversations that are difficult, they get so much easier when they know that you care and you're not in there to just beat them up.
Mhm.
And people open up.
They open up. You're kind of opening that door for them to give you feedback.
Yeah,
You know, I take this ownership. What, from your perspective, how can I be a better leader?
yeah,
Or what can we do to make your job a little bit easier? And some of the differences between a boss and a leader is a boss would never do that.
yeah,
A boss would just point the finger or crack the whip and
yeah.
say, go do better, versus how can we together move forward on how
Yeah.
to fix this?
If you're building a company and you're trying to make it grow and prosper, and everybody wants to make as much money, so everybody should have the same goal, right?
Right.
As long as the owner, and we're lucky enough to be in this environment where the owner basically shares the wealth, right? So as the company's making money, he shares the wealth. He shares it with me, he shares it with you, he shares it with everyone here. Like we're constantly pushing money back in and trying to just do better in a lot of different ways. In that environment, now we all have the same goals. If the company's making more money, we all make more money. So, okay, now we have aligned goals there. Once we all have the same goals, yelling and punching and fighting to get people in line, if you've got shared goals and you guys are headed to the same place, why do I got to drag you?
Mhm.
If you got to drag somebody, you got the wrong guy.
Mhm.
You need to find,
Sure.
yeah, you need somebody that's willing to run that's the same pace everybody else is running. Now, if they're putting in the same effort and they're running a little bit slower, I could work with that.
Right.
The effort is there and you're just not something's not, jiving as quick as everybody. I could work with that all day long. It's the guy that's capable of running as fast or faster and chooses not to. Now all of a sudden, is that the best fit? And that sometimes that's hard to determine, and it takes some time to filter through that. At the end of the day, if we all have the same goals and we can lead with compassion, that unconditional love, w- I mean, that's, we're 90% of the way there.
Mhm.
Now it's up to the customers and in a bid and, some of these other things. But if you get a team full of people who care about each other, have the same goals and running in the same direction, good things are about to happen. You're about to ball this company up. Things are about to move in the right direction. It's just getting that environment created is the hard part.
Right. So how do you build that culture of those uh, frontline managers that are in charge of middle managers, I
Yeah.
guess you would say? How do you get those guys to adapt to the culture that you're trying to do? If there's a lot of people and there's a lot you don't know, everybody's got their own battles,
Yeah.
like how do you
I mean, they have to be proven
Yeah.
over time. You gotta. We have a bit of a training facility here. It's a farming system, and we like to hire people that have never done this before
Mhm.
and train them how to do it, especially in the office.
Mm.
Obviously, in the field, you need people with experience to do a specific trade, but we like to grab people straight out of school, fresh, nothing, maybe high school, doesn't matter, college, doesn't matter, like, and put them in an environment like, hey, we're going to offer you something pretty amazing here, but you're going to have to go through shit to get it.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to have to prove yourself. You're going to have to do all the shit work.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go get breakfast. You're going to have to do all of the stuff nobody else wants to do.
Yeah.
You do it all really good.
Yeah.
Then we're going to find somebody else that can start doing that. And then we'll move you up to the next level and you can start estimating a little bit. Maybe you can start project managing a couple jobs. You do good on that, we'll keep pushing you. Are you good at estimating or project management? We'll push you to where you could be the most successful. And we'll kind of push people in a way, but we like I think the way to build that culture is to take a fresh canvas and start from there.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of good psychological things behind all that because doing small mundane tasks, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah.
And if you can do it on a consistent basis, it's a good show that you might be able to handle a little bit more. And to be a leader, it's not necessarily the position that you're given. It's about how you respond,
Yeah.
So it can be a janitor.
Yeah.
It's about if their goal is they want to be the best janitor that this facility's ever seen, they can lead by doing so and crush whatever they want.
Yeah.
And instead of getting an entitlement, getting a boss, and then whatever, but you can start out as a leader, even if you're not in a leadership role right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we recognize that
Yeah.
type of stuff here. We've got people working in HR and Rachel Diatley is one of the most valuable people that work at this company. She started at the front desk,
Yeah. Yeah.
and everything is a training ground.
Yeah.
We don't no, there's no position there. You're just relaxed and whatever. Do you want more?
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll
let's
throw it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll throw it at you. We're growing.
Yeah.
We've grown 3,900% in 13 years. That's
Dumb.
yeah, from 2.5 million to 100 million in 13 years. And you have to be able to produce talent.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to produce the next all-star, the next talented person that gives a shit, is willing to dive in and care about the company and be the next asset.
Adopt the same values and mindset that you're leading from the top down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then when they do, they get rewarded.
Yeah.
They get rewarded. And you look around, we got a bunch of early 30-year-old people managing divisions of a company,
Yeah. Millions.
millions, yeah, 20, 30
Mm-hmm.
million dollar divisions. They're basically individual companies, ran as individual companies, and they're very young, but they've been forced through fire.
Yeah.
Like they've been in the hot seat
Yeah.
for 10 years. They're as chiseled as any 50-year-old person, because of the environment that they came up through. It's not easy, but they got rewarded with money along the way. As they started becoming an earner, they immediately got rewarded.
Yeah.
And that's a vital part of it. You could only love and push somebody along so much, but they're here to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, and if you don't pay them, they're gone.
Yeah.
So it's a two-way street. You have to show them that you care about them. You have to show them, but you also got to show them the money.
Yeah. Yeah. Got to reap the benefits
Yeah.
of it for sure, especially if you're putting in the hard work and they're acting as an owner.
Yep.
And adapting, changing with the every day, because every day is changing, and just being able to withstand the storms that are coming, because life will test you
Yeah.
pretty quick.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's gonna be tough to make it through. It's gonna be tough, but to build that culture, to me, that's where it starts. Is all the people.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Jarrett always talks about Nick Saban. He said Nick Saban's job was to get the good players on the bus and the bad players off the bus, and that's very simplified because it's extremely hard to identify, but that is our job. At the end of the day, to get them playing at a high level, get employees operating at a high level, and the bad ones got to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's a tough thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk is by far the richest man on the planet these days, and I read his book on just life and management and how he approaches things, and he talks about most people that are managing and CEOs could never work for him. He would fire them. And his number one reason is people are too slow to fire people.
Mm.
And I disagree with that, but I understand the logic because you could put so much time trying to talk to somebody, trying to navigate their problems and trying to get them to produce an outcome that you need them to produce for the company, and you're wasting time.
Mm-hmm.
You're wasting time and your money. He didn't build SpaceX overnight, and he didn't build Tesla overnight by
Dealing
waiting.
with people,
Yeah,
dealing with the wrong people.
yes,
He knew his starting five.
yeah. He identified the wrong person and got him off the bus.
Yeah.
And a lot of times too early.
Yeah.
I think he made a lot of mistakes, and a lot of his upper management would quit and leave him because of the way he would fire good, long-standing employees that were dedicating their life and dumping their heart and soul into it, and he would fire them a little quick. But his Asperger's and his emotional response to that is none. Like he just didn't have any compassion for it. His only mission is to build a company, and if you don't fit, he's going to find the guy. I disagree with that, but at the same time, I understand and respect the logic, because if he truly just put the company first, I get it. But I don't know that I could sleep at night if I operated that way.
Yeah, yeah, I think there is a line there, because again, having the extreme ownership, did I give them enough guidance in the training? Did I balance this out? But at the same time, if it's the same pattern over and over again, and it's just chances on chances, like, yeah, there is a time where you have to throw in the towel.
Yeah. When another thing that I've always taken out, so because I've had to fire so many people,
It's the worst part of management.
and it's difficult. And some of these people you truly care about,
Yeah.
and you got to cut them loose. But every single time, there's multiple people then get a promotion.
Yeah.
And their lives are uplifted at the same time somebody else
Yeah.
is getting smacked, because
Mhm.
usually you got to backfill that spot, and usually that person that you're backfilling it with, their spot has to get lift.
Yep.
So there's usually multiple people get elevated when a middle manager gets fired.
Yep.
And that's kind of a beautiful, yin and yang to a situation. And then the company is all of a sudden better for it. So, I've kind of found peace with it. At the end of the day, it just is what it is. It's not my fault. As long as I was honest with them
Mhm.
and have able to have those loving, transparent conversations early, and enough to where they had an opportunity to make changes, you know,
Yeah. That people would fire themselves.
yeah.
Yeah.
Most people understand it when it comes.
Yeah. Well, what about the joy of leadership?
The joy of leadership, coming out on the side, of a leadership is
Just
just
everyone around you.
to see the results,
Yeah.
to see, people coming to work and they're happy, coming in and out of the front door and just hearing smiles and laughter and the success. When Luke came into my office today, he got the biggest job he's ever got. Our concrete division is relatively small, and he's just,
Ecstatic.
yeah, he's ecstatic, like, so to me, that's, a young 30-year-old divisional manager he's going to be working for the next 20 years of his life. And he's been doing this for 3 years now, 4 years. Those moments are pretty cool to see the success of the company, because we all share in that success. We all got that job, but he's taking a lot of pride in it. And, it goes continuously, you're constantly having those wins, but you get to share them with, somebody that's been running hard for you, that you truly care about. So it's a multiple win. It's like winning with family.
Yeah. Seeing people grow, seeing people become leaders of leaders. Just, yeah, everything that's manifesting on their vision board.
Yeah.
Getting a family, getting a home, new vehicle, just upgrading,
Yeah.
But the best ones do it humbly, and yeah, that's the best thing to see. It really is.
Yeah. I really enjoy watching, like you said, with their family part of it. I go to a lot of birthday parties.
Yeah, I think you go to all the birthday parties and all the weddings, and
Yeah, I tried to. I promised
and that
myself.
says something about you too. It also shows that you genuinely do care.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I mean, that's the goal, is to practice,
Practice what
that
you preach.
unconditional love.
Mhm.
Yeah, I promised myself a long time ago, uh, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, somewhere, that I would, if anybody ever invites me to a family thing of, like, a monument, like a baby shower or a birthday party, a wedding, whatever it is, I'm going.
Mhm.
I'm going, because the regret is just too much.
Yeah.
I couldn't handle it.
Well, another thing you do that's awesome is you get a list from the admin staff of whose birthdays are coming up the next month, and you and Jason Jarrett write just a quick little note about happy birthday. I've still got all mine framed, but I don't. You obviously know the impact, but sometimes people need it at the right time, and it does a lot. Just the thoughtfulness,
Yeah.
the small things, that you don't think
Let
about.
people know you care about
Yeah.
it. It just goes a million miles. I mean, how many times has somebody told me something that, shared some love with me or whatever, and it lifted me up,
Yeah.
you know? If I'm in a situation where I can be that for somebody else, well, then that's what I need.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've learned a lot from you in some of those aspects. I've been paying attention.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy my job. I got a quick question for you.
Okay.
So, we've talked about your work history at AT&T. What was your previous leaders like? What were your previous bosses? How'd they treat you?
Not great. No, not great. It was, you were a number. You were a number, you were replaceable. But the whole idea was them trying to selfishly get the best out of all of us. Living paycheck to paycheck was tough, but there were times where I wasn't getting paid. So I had to figure out a way to eat. The bosses there, then they just they were just in that role and they just, here's your territory, do your thing. But in order for me to get more, I had to get everybody else around me on my team to do well. So I spent the majority of the time with limited resources from my superiors to figure it out, to try and reinvent the wheel per se. But that's when and one of the things that I did learn was leaders try to learn and they try to adapt and they try to do and soak up more information to try to adapt to this person, adapt to this problem, to figure out how to get the goal. But that was when I was, man, I was listening to, and most of the time it was motivational stuff. And it was just letting people know that I believe you can do it.
Yeah.
You know,
That means a lot to people.
it does. It does, especially when you were stuck in the bad weather all week, bad territory, bad credit. Like they would send us out to places where like people would want it, but their credit wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And then it's just like another one. You have to analyze all that and just be like, no means next. We just got to keep pounding the pavement and keep going. I've had another boss that was in uh, a different industry, and he was probably the worst of all time. Just of not giving anything. Selfish. It actually feels weird to say that because I'm also now thinking, well, was it me at that time? As I just didn't like this guy. No, but there were a lot of people that would agree. But it was more so cracking the whip. I'm not going to help you out no matter what. Like I'm like, please help me out. These guys are pulling one over on you. Trust me.
Yeah.
Don't pay them this. Like they're wrong. I'm right. Trust me. Now word going with them. And then they would pay them. I wouldn't get my commission. And then we would never see them again. And I'm just like, told you, and that was time and time and time again. And it was it was a lot. But so when coming into y'all's world, it was a breath of fresh air. Because I had never seen anything like it that truly cared about people the way that I wanted to care about people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you and Jason Jarrett, all of my leaders in this industry are truly the best leaders that I've ever came across, and I'm honored to learn and continue to learn under you guys to elevate everybody around me and under me.
Yeah.
I want to continue the legacy, because it's not like this in other industries and other places.
Yeah. I guess I had a handful of other jobs. And I remember one time I was working for an asphalt company and I'd been there for about 4 years and I never met the boss,
Hmm.
right? He was always in the office and I was always in the field, just going from job to job in the field. And he came out to the job one day.
Hmm.
And I considered myself an extremely hard physical worker, right? If somebody was shoveling asphalt and I was by them, I would be looking to make sure I shoveled more asphalt than them. It was just a personal thing.
Yeah.
And I put a lot of effort into that job and it was all in my own mind. It was all a pride thing. But at the end of the day, when he came out to that job site, he didn't say hi.
Hmm.
He went and talked to the foreman. He walked by everybody, never said hi to any of the guys, never acknowledged anybody. And I wanted to quit
Hmm.
at the end of that day. I was just like,
Zero
"Fuck
knowledge."
you, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I bust my ass for you every day. And you can't even say hi.
Yeah.
Like, I get it if you work in the office all day long and you don't make a point to come say hi to me, but like we just walk by each other and I bust my ass for you every day and you're not. I was angry, but that was a great lesson for me
That is a good lesson.
because I always carried that with me because the guys, whether you're running an asphalt company or an HVAC company or a fire protection company, the guys who are physically installing the asphalt, the ductwork, the pipe, they're the ones making the money.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the customer is paying for. That's the service that's being provided. They need to be respected,
Mm-hmm.
and I've I've never lost sight of that day. That lesson I got taught that day. I didn't understand that lesson until years later when I was in a leadership position. But that was a big sting, and
Mhm.
I think most people don't understand the power of just being recognized and being told, "Hey, you do a good job. Thank you for everything you do." It goes a long way.
It does. It does. It actually makes me second guess anything that I've done in the past few days or hours where I'm like, I could have probably said something. Yeah, that's a great lesson.
Yeah.
And I think we can all get better from that.
Yeah.
It's just it's the small things,
Yeah.
just on a consistent basis. And no one's perfect, but the fact that you felt that I am busting my ass for you and he didn't have the decency to even look at me.
Yeah.
You
Say hi. I didn't
say,
want him to say anything other than just hi. Maybe just,
how you doing?
hey,
Yeah.
shake my hand. Hey, I'm so and so, and what's your name?
Hmm.
He signs my check. I saw his name on my check, but he didn't want to know who I was. Yeah, I think that was, I don't know. It was a it was a bad day for me, just mentally.
So did you quit? Or yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, I needed my job, but
Talk to him?
I ended up going to the office and working for him.
Oh.
Yeah, and he taught me a bunch of other lessons on how not to be, but he also taught me how to estimate.
Yeah.
Like, I knew he was a very intelligent man, um, and he taught me how to estimate anything. Like, understanding how to estimate and just the attention to detail, and I learned a lot from him. But he was very good at belittling people.
Mm.
That was his motivating skills. It worked for me because as a kid that could barely read and write, and then by the time I got into the office with him, I was in my late 20s, and I couldn't I could read, but my reading comprehension still sucked. And yeah, he would point it out. He would poke fun at me. He'd give me hell. I was a pretty tough kid, and I only let it affect me so bad, but you know, you could learn something from every situation that you're in, and I took a boatload of value out of that job for 4 years when I was in the office. It was almost 5 years, actually, and I'm grateful for all of it. He was mean. He was mean to be mean, because he had a bigger brain in a lot of aspects.
Shapes the way you are now.
Yeah,
Look at the ripple effect.
yeah, I wouldn't have been able to get the job that I got after that. I wouldn't have been able to take the job with Jason that I got without all the lessons that I learned. So I am grateful for every moment of it. I went to his funeral to thank him, like he was he's a big part of my career path.
Mm. I think everything happens for a reason,
Yeah.
and what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I don't
Yeah.
know how many times I've said that, or I've thought it at least a few times.
I'll tell you as we're kind of wrapping up here, I'll tell you a story about how I left there. So I had been working in the office making very little money on an hourly rate, but I was getting 52 hours a week. Right. So I think it ended up being about $45,000 a year. And I had been doing it with the exact same pay for 5 years, no raise. At the end of that 5 years, uh, the company had taught me or sent me to school to teach flagging classes. And I'd certify all of our people that would get out in the roadway with a flagging certification so you can legally be out in the road to flag traffic. And I had a couple other companies that wanted to pay me to teach those classes for them. And I was just doing the right thing and telling my boss, like, hey, I want to do this on the side. Just want to make sure you know what I'm doing. And he looked at me dead in the face and said, we don't do that here. And I was like, I understand we don't do that here, but that's what I want to do. He looked me in the face. He said, we don't do that here. I was like, oh shit. Okay, I guess I can't do this. So, and it pissed me off to the point where I had like tears in my eyes by the time I walked back to my cubicle desk. And I got halfway there and I turned my ass back around. I went back in there and asked him for money. And I was like, look, I've been here for 5 years and never asked for money. And I'm just trying to make money on the side to help my family. My wife's wanting to go to law school. I need to be able to make more money. And he just looked me dead in the face. He said, Mike, you're already making more than you're worth. It was like just a dagger. He just crushed my soul. I was already on the verge of tears and angry, ready to fight.
Gosh.
but he pushed me out of that nest.
Yeah.
You know, that day I started looking for a job, and within a week I found a job making $20,000 more a year, but they put me on hold. Within a month, I found a job that doubled my salary.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was kind of amazing, you know, the way the irony of being told that I'm already making more than I'm worth, and a month later I've doubled my salary. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I had just outgrown Man Pendleton and that environment, and you know, I'm always grateful for everything that he's taught me, but you know, it was just time to move on.
Yeah. And all the signs are around it, you know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
they were testing you for sure.
Yeah, they were.
Man, that's a great story.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how do you want to end this?
So
Give anything,
a piece of advice.
one practical thing.
One practical thing, you know, we kind of gave a few tips. Extreme ownership. If I can give one person listening advice on how to become a leader, how to move up the flagpole, the advice I would give is to learn and practice extreme ownership. It's the easiest thing to do, and you might not be in an environment that's conducive to that, but true leaders are going to see that, and it's going to elevate your career like nothing else.
Yep. Leadership is the human job of taking care of people.
There you go.
Yeah. I like to shout out to Simon Center.
That's beautiful. That's a great way of saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so that a good conversation.
Yeah. We'll see you next time. Next week. Check out our newsletter and our social media. Bye, friends. At the end of the day, system needs soul and leaders need stillness. Ownership starts with you. Show up for your people the way you first show up for yourself. That's the real SOP. We'll see you next time.